Hello and welcome to Tom's Hardware, the podcast. It's March 25th. Oh, where the hell is this month gone? My name's Les Pounder, Associate Editor, and with me I have two guests. I have Mike Horne and Kian Ryan, and hello! All three of us share a passion for something, and it isn't Greg's for the UK watchers. It is these things. Psions. Look at that too. Is there going to be a third Psion on screen? Oh, there we go. He's got it queued up. These things. Psion organizers from the late 80s to the 1990s. These were the things to go for. Every professional had something similar to this. I had a Casio version, which was about £15 from Argos. I couldn't afford this one as a teenager. And these are just fantastic little machines, little ARM computers. And they're ahead of the time, really. 16-bit CPUs. We've got 2 meg of RAM in this one, which is a huge amount in the 1990s. And you could program them as well. I've been using it for learning OPL. But we're now in the 21st century, apparently. It's 2025. And these machines, while they're good and interesting, we need something a bit more powerful. And that's what Mike's up to at the moment. Mike's hoping to merge this, the Raspberry Pi 3A Plus, with some form of handheld Psion alike. So I'm going to chuck it over to Mike now. So Mike, tell me why.
Because I always wanted a Psion when they came out. I couldn't afford one. Then I ended up getting an HP Jornada, which had Windows CE, which is probably the worst version of Windows you can possibly ever have. And I do include Vista.
What about ME?
ME was much worse. But no, Windows CE went the way of the dinosaur, thank goodness. But no, I always wanted a Psion, and I was told that it had the worst screen that you could get, but actually the keyboard was beautiful.
I agree with the keyboard on the 5 and 5MX. Lovely keyboard. On the 3A,
the 3A takes some loving for the keyboard. It takes some time.
I mean, you probably can't see this. I've not got put the light on there. You don't remember to see it. I hand typed that bit of code on this keyboard, and it took me a while. Also, finding where special keys were, like greater than, less than. It's like what buttons do I have to press? Yep. But I do have a lot of love for it. And the 5MX keyboard and 5, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, like butter.
Yeah. So we've got Kian on as well. Kian has done some fantastic work with a sidecar project. Was it 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago now?
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago now. Whoop, there we go. There's my little sidecar.
Yeah, I'll just get us... No, that's my face. Let's click on the button here. There you go.
Right, the hamster.
Let's just go through all the images. There we go.
Yay!
I was pressing the right way as well then. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on.
So pro streamer.
Yeah, I really should have a Twitch channel. Really should. So Kian's coming on. He's got this fantastic sidecar project. And Kian, do you want to tell us more about what the sidecar is and what it does for the Psion?
Yeah, it's a little Pi Zero in a box with a serial adapter stacked onto the top of it. That allows your Pi to access it allows it to access the internet, acting as a modem emulator or as a little Linux box that you can SSH to and use it to use your Psion as a terminal emulator to access the Pi and do whatever jobs you would normally do on a Pi. So use the two as a little closed loop system for doing remote development work on.
Cool.
It is awesome. We did a story on it when it came out, and yeah,
it got a fair amount of attention when it came out. I was surprised. I'll be honest. I was surprised by the amount of love it got for what was supposed to have been a small project that I thought was going to be put this together, have a bit of fun with it, park it. I was surprised by how big it blew up.
It got popular. Yeah, we covered it. I think Hackaday covered it as well. Did Hackster cover it as well?
Yep. I was looking at the little the analytics was coming back from my blog, and I was like, oh, it's turned up here now, and it's turned up here, and there's now a bit of traffic here, and oh, those aren't very nice comments that are coming back from some people, but the other comments are rather nice. So it got a fair bit of discussion that was going on.
people are commenting, it means they're reading. That's good.
It's all engagement.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's something which is actually interesting and technical, rather than just frivolous and gets loads of clicks.
Yeah. I was happy, and it showed one that people had a lot of love for the devices, which was quite nice. And there was a lot of, oh my God, I've got one of those sat in a drawer. Can I build one of these? Can you make me one of these? First answer, no, I'm not making one of these. All of the plans are open. Go and make it yourself. And two, it started that dialogue of, what about these small form factor machines, and where are they? What can we do with them? Why don't we have quite so many of them anymore?
Very true.
We do have some. I've just got this thing still tethered. We've got some modern ones knocking around now, but we definitely had a bit of a gap for a while, which was interesting as everything started to go bigger, and then we still quite like the thing that we can slide into a pocket, or a very large cargo pocket at the very least, and still have things that we can tap around on.
I think it's the Gemini that came out recently, wasn't it? That's about that size.
Well, the Gemini was from the same people as it had some of the same design team as the Psion 5, etc. The keyboard wasn't quite as superb as the 5, but it had a lot of the DNA involved, with basically a standard ARM phone slapped onto the top half. So there was a lot of very similar things. One of our Hackspace members has one of them, and we do occasionally play around with that. This is a MNT Pocket Reform, which is a little bigger, but has a lot of sort of similar DNA involved. So we've got. It's nice that we can start to play in this space, and they're not going to have. Talking about links in with Pis and small scale engineering, especially. The ThinkPad that lives on my work desk is made in millions. These are made in hundreds, thousands, millions of units. This thing's made in the hundreds and thousands. So having access to the small scale manufacturing capabilities that we've now got for doing these kind of projects and crowd supply and all of those pipelines has massively opened up the door for these projects to occur, which we wouldn't have had previously. Even the same for the communicator, the Gemini projects. Those things that we didn't have access to previously, in the smaller scale, we've now got access to. We're not dependent on Nokia to come along and go, oh, I'm interested in making a new communicator. Is there a market for 1.2 million of these devices? Someone can come along and go, well, we can shift a few thousand of these, and there's enough market to support it. We can make them now.
Yeah, they are small niche devices that sort of scratch an itch for enthusiasts. Yeah. And it's as if they've just made a segue to this now for Mike to talk about his project. Yeah. So, Mike, you're building a one-off Psion-alike, pretty much. I haven't got a proper name for it. What do you call it?
I'm calling it Psion-Pi, which I'm stealing from somebody else who was sort of started it but didn't really. Yeah. So I found a guy called Rasmus Bachman who had come up with this amazing PCB that's got an Atmel Mega on it. And it converts the output from the Psion 5 keyboard into a USB signal. So he's done all the key mapping, and he's worked out the firmware that you need for the Atmega, and then you basically flash that to this little PCB, and then you just plug that into the Pi in it, and it just works. As Les has got on his screen, that's the actual keyboard that I skillfully removed from the case. In my defense, the screen on the donor unit that I had a nasty black splodge of LCD liquid on it. But yeah, it works really well. I've yet to quite get the key mapping sorted. I did spot somebody else that had sorted out the key mappings for like the little the keys on the edge of the keyboard. So that's really good. And I've got it actually working at the moment. It's got cables all over the place, and but it's running off of a battery pack, and it's using a little thing called a Lipo Rider Plus, which gives you just enough power to run a 3A plus with a voltage warning. Admittedly, it's not quite got the voltage that it needs. And then I've been working on a 3D case for it with mixed results.
Spaghetti. Oh dear.
Yeah,
that is a little bit mixed, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing so well. I was printing the bit that was going to hold the keyboard this afternoon, and I got about 2/3 of the way through, and suddenly it printed off spaghetti.
Oh.
So that's really annoying. But at least I've actually managed to print something that looks like it's the right size for the gap that needs to be there.
Yeah.
And that's the 3D case. So it's looking a little bit chunky, unfortunately, because I need to get the battery pack and the A plus in there.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that eventually I can solve the hinge problem and get it so that it is freestanding, although I suspect that the two halves are going to be too heavy to just be freestanding.
Are you planning on getting the hinge internal, or are you looking at keeping the hinge external?
I was looking at doing it internally to route the ribbon cables through the hinge.
Yep.
And I found a really good design that somebody had come up with, but it was an STL, and I couldn't figure out a way to break it apart because I needed to change the dimensions and that sort of thing. So that the first version is going to have the hinges out like it's pictured at the moment, and then the second version, once I circle back to it, I'm going to figure out a way of doing the ribbons through the hinges and up to the screen.
That's absolutely fair. I mean, that looks like great for a first run case. That's
yeah.
All the parts inside, close, everything runs, and it's carryable.
Yeah.
Perfectly serviceable first ed case. Love it.
Mike, what sort of screen are you connecting to this?
It's a wave share one that looks like it came out of a rather large mobile phone.
Oh, okay.
Is it DSI or HDMI?
It's DSI.
Okay, cool.
Which is quite nice because it means I haven't got to have the massive HDMI cable going everywhere.
That's handy. Very handy.
Yeah, so far I've managed to make it so that I've got a ribbon cable from the keyboard into the Pi 3A, and then a ribbon cable from the Lipo Rider into the 3A. So it sort of all just works off of ribbon cables.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now, you might have mentioned this. I might have missed it because I was trying to press buttons frantically to change from one scene to another. How's the screen powered? Is that coming straight off the GPIO, or is it coming from the DSI connection?
How is it powered? It is coming off of the DSI connection. Oh, it's got pogo pins.
Ah, brilliant. Okay.
It's got pogo pins into the back of the GPIO.
Oh, I see. So it's a pressure fit.
Yeah,
so maintain the contact. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, that will do until I figure out a way to not use pogo pins, because I always get a bit worried around pogo pins.
The pogo pins are great until they're not.
Yeah,
yeah. They're also a nightmare to solder.
I bet. A nightmare to solder. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you keep them in place without burning your fingers, or they go off it on the squiff? 5 degrees off. It doesn't make contact on the test point.
And whatever you do, don't squeeze them because it'll go pinging off into infinity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, done that. Done a few projects.
But that's looking great for for first run through. That's looking absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I'm quite pleased with it. I've 3D printed a couple of bits so far. So the screen slots into the top box, and then obviously you need something to retain it there. So I've printed a plate that holds the screen in, and then just screws in.
Have you looked at runtime for the battery, sort of as it's currently? Have you got any idea for how long you're getting out of it?
No, I haven't run it yet for that long. At the moment, it is plugged into the mains. I'm hoping it's charging the battery at the same time, but the charging lights are slowly going down. So I'm wondering if it is actually charging it or not. But But the LiPo Rider is a lovely board. It's sort of the next step up from the Adafruit Power Boost.
Yeah, I've not met the Rider at all. That's a new one on me. I've been using Pi Moroni's.
LiPo Amigo.
Yeah, I tend to lean on the Amigo fair amount, and at some point I'll actually bite the bullet and just start putting my own LiPo circuitry on boards. But for the moment, I'm quite happy to go. LiPo is something that I offload to the Amigo and let the Amigo do, because if I get it wrong, fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the moment, mine's running off of a Lion pack, which is slightly more safer than a LiPo.
Ever so slightly, yeah.
Too many years doing Pi Wars and people going, this LiPo we've got, should it be smoking? Get out.
Fair.
So we've got some questions from the chat. We've got Tommy sent a message. So a PDA like a tungsten T5. Now I do remember this era. This is early 2000s era.
Palm.
Yeah.
Palm
Yeah,
tungsten
Palm.
T5. So touchscreen, small rectangular form factor. This is where I try and look at the camera instead of look at my own fingers. About yay sized. Wi-Fi, yes, more or less. Yeah, something like that. You just grab components out the drawer and put them together, and then prototype in the next 10 minutes, Les. That's your challenge before the end of the cast.
Yeah, I'll crack on. Yeah. You could do it. I mean, there probably also is an emulator out there for tungsten T5, the OS. What OS was it?
Palm OS. There is Palm OS emulator running around. I don't know how well the touchscreeny components work, or just take one of the light desktop environments for Linux, throw that on, mess around with the orientation, and off you go, because they seem to work quite well at the minute from a touch point of view. So yeah, in answer to can we do it? Yes. Is there a motivation to? Pass. There seems to be a lot of love at the minute, more for keyboard-based PDAs, or at least I'm seeing more love at the minute, possibly because I'm inside the circle of people that are having a lot of love for keyboard-based PDAs.
Yeah.
I'm seeing less for the Palm Pilot style, but my first PDA was a Palm. It was a Palm 3E, and I loved that thing till I got to university and was surrounded by the people who had one of these, the keyboard type, and suddenly realized I'd love a thing that I could type faster on.
Yeah,
that was the point where the envy kicked in.
It was either that or you get one of the fold-up Targus Stowaway keyboards.
Oh, I tried those. They just didn't really do it in the same way, did they? I mean, Palm OS was a fantastic OS, but it was geared for a different set of use cases. That's the thing. Psion's OS was a whole different type of productivity. It was a whole different type of user experience. And that's a rabbit hole we're going to get into if we're not too careful.
I had an idea a couple of years ago. There is a Psion 3 emulator, which is an official emulator done by Psion when you're developing your apps. And it runs in DOS. And I got it on a cover disc in the 1990s for a magazine. And I'm talking floppy disk, not CD-ROM. And I've got it still somewhere. And I've got the software running in the DOS box. I thought, hang on. Could I run something like DOS on this, versus FreeDOS, and then run that Psion emulator? This is the original EPC from, 2008, 2007, something like that. And this is more than enough to run the emulator.
Yeah.
But could I do it with that? That's on my list of things to do, which every maker has. And you say, we'll add one more thing to our list of things to do, and the list just keeps growing. It's
never get around to it.
Yes, it becomes a thing of increasing my length of my list rather than actually picking anything off the list.
Yeah. Oh yes. Let's see. Oh, another question from Tommy. Put that on. 3D printing and Pi capable built a custom stunning Pi. You could build an absolutely stunning PDA with Raspberry Pi and 3D printing. The technology's out there now to do it. I mean, before the show, Mike and myself were talking about 3D printers. I've just paid up the money for the Elegoo Centauri Carbon Core XY printer, £300, $300 roughly.
300, yeah.
And it runs something like Clipper. It's called Elegoo OS, but it's pretty much the same thing, but it's just been proprietarized. Prints really fast. It's on the way to me, apparently. That could prototype really quickly, and I could have many iterations going along and building stuff. The electronic side of things, it's well documented now about what you can stick inside and build something. I mean, you've got Mike's approach with a Pi. A couple of weeks ago now, or 3 weeks ago, we had Abe Haskins on the show, and Abe built his own PDA portable computer, which used the Pimoroni PicoVision, which is 2 RP2040 chips. Yep. One as a CPU, one as a GPU. And that had its own OS and software. It could run Python and detect when apps were installed. All self-built. Go back and have a look at episode 204. And I apologize for the quality. We had to use a backup video for that because it crashed. But it's still there. And we linked to his video in that one as well. There is a resurgence. And yes, all three of us are in that circle of, we're all, I will use the term politely, middle-aged men who like to reminisce about old technology. Just look on the shelf behind me.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we do. And Tommy's other question, is this CAD? Well, what you saw before was Tinkercad, what Mike's using to design the case for it. Tinkercad is sort of a beginner's CAD. It works, it does the job. It's probably not as featureful as something like Onshape or Fusion 360, but it's free and it's a good way to get started.
Yeah, I tried to design my case with SolidWorks, and I liked it, but I couldn't figure out how to move anything.
I'm going to drop a FreeCAD in there. You managed to go Fusion 360 and Onshape, and we didn't end up in FreeCAD, and I feel very disappointed.
Well, I had a go FreeCAD, and as Mike just said there, it didn't gel with me. I just couldn't get my way around it.
No, that's fair. I find FreeCAD has come a long way since version 1. So there was the pre-version 1 era and there's the version 1 era, and I think we've hit version 1. The world has significantly changed. So I used to do all of my work in Fusion 360 for all of the paid stuff and all of the client stuff we did for Hackspace. Now everything now goes through FreeCAD. Including my CAM stuff now goes, unless it's simple 2D geometry stuff, at which point I'll just put it through Carbide Create for speed and time. Everything else now goes through FreeCAD, which has been a bit of a turnaround. So, wow. Yeah, finally made that jump.
Now, when I was designing cases he reaches over to a shelf of junk. Let's put the light on now, so it's getting dark. There we are. So that's what's it called? Not the Badger.
Tufty.
It's the Tufty. Thank you. That's a Pimoroni Tufty inside a green 3D printed case. That was designed using the plans on 1:1 scale from Pimoroni, which on their website. And I just chucked it in Inkscape and then just measured it all out, and then took it to Tinkercad and extruded it to the height that I wanted.
I get surprised by how. So we talk about when we're teaching CAD, we talk about using the right tool for the job, and not every there isn't every tool's a hammer approach, but there's the problem of I must go to the most complex tool all the time. Yeah, don't have to. We were teaching a couple of kids a few weeks ago, and just throwing out basic shapes, and I keep forgetting at times how powerful Tinkercad is just for doing simple freeform modeling of things. So we threw together some basic logos, shapes, a little Robin Shuriken very quickly. It's like, that took me 5 minutes. I'm not doing big parametric modeling stuff. I'm throwing together a little Robin Shuriken for a cosplay stuff. It was like 5 minutes and it's done. Whoosh! Hit the wall. Yeah. It's a fantastic little modeling. It's a fantastic little modeling system for that. If I'm doing interdependent components that I care about, if that's 2 millimeters, or if I'm going to go and throw it on the CNC that's out in the garage, then yes, I'm going to go and open up the big thing. If I'm going to go and throw stuff on the laser, I'm going straight to InkCAD first, and I'm going through, I've forgotten the name of the light. We're going through Lightburn and putting it out through there. But I'm choosing the tool based on the job that I'm doing. I'm taking that critical eye, but it doesn't always have to go to the most complex piece of software immediately. No. You know, you can absolutely choose for the target.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole benefit of the maker community now. We have all these different tools, all this different software, all these different methodologies. Everyone's documenting their approaches. And it means that we can learn from their mistakes, from their failures, and failures how we learn. And we apply it to our project. And then we have all the failures and we make some problems for ourselves and try and solve them and document it. And then we tell the world. I mean, that's what I did with that. That was just a whole how-to of me documenting my failure as I iterated through different versions. This is the 8th version, by the way.
Yep.
A lot of green filament was used in that.
Yeah, I think it's useful at times.
Sorry, the case for mine, it gave me an estimate of 24 hours for one bit of it, and I was like, I'm definitely doing something wrong.
Yeah. Is that solid infill or something?
I don't know. I mean, I've split it up into bits now, and I think some of it is infill and some of it is just a bit of overhang, so it needs a bit of support.
Yeah. You mentioned on the Mastodon post that you put it into slices to try and print it a bit quicker, and also so you can iterate certain sections. You're not printing overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, have you got a laser cutter nearby?
I did think about that. I was going to pester Tim and ask him to laser cut me the case, and then I thought, I'm not sure I want to do that in version 1.
Fair enough.
That's fair. Very fair. I mean, what's your next step, Mike? What are you going to be doing the next part of this process? Is it just the printing of the case, or are you going to be doing something else?
Next step is to print bits of the case. I mean, even though I got spaghetti out of the printer, which is right next to me, it's printed enough that I can fit the keyboard and work out if my tolerances were about right.
Oh, yeah.
And then after that, I need to solve the problem of the hinges, which at the moment they're very flexible.
Yeah. Hinges are hard. Sign will tell you hinges are hard.
Yeah, I did see somebody use the hinge from, what was it, a Nintendo DS, because I think they click into different places, and so I'm going to try and split this hinge apart and get one of those hinges inside it.
That's a neat idea. I like that idea.
Yeah.
A friction plate's the other way of dealing with that. So you could use like an interlocking plate that segmented moves as you're opening it. So there's a few. I think you've got a few. There's like books of hinges. Hinges are so damn hard. People write books about hinge design. It's unreal. But yeah, I would, if you can't nail, if you can go through a few iterations and you hit a point of frustration, there's nothing wrong with going, and here's the hinges that I bought. It's that level of hinges are hard.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something I was going to mention earlier on about why 3D print a hinge when there are countless hundreds of thousands of hinge designs out there that you can just go to the shop and pick them up.
Yeah, the DS hinges are a great idea. They seem to get incorporated into quite a lot of projects about this scale, simply because they're I think it's a 2-tab design that slots in and then has an internal spring that allows it to open and close. So they seem to be very well understood, very easy to incorporate into other designs. So yeah, seems like a fair use for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also countless numbers of DSs on eBay that you can pick up for cheap because someone threw them across the room and it missed the jump in Mario or something.
Yep.
That wasn't me.
I can't find the hinge, so I'm going to cut it off of a Nintendo DS and stick that onto it.
Nobody's going to miss a DS, let's be fair.
That's true.
The first DS they're not going to miss because that was just huge. That's the one I own. That is not a pocket console. That's, early 2000s cargo pants. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, the trousers we used to wear to accommodate all of the things that we were carrying at the time.
Yeah.
And now it's all shrunk down into a phone where we can play our games like Monster Hunter or something like that on our phone.
It is crazy what you can do with a phone, isn't it? I mean, you never would have thought of it when the Psion originally came out. You think that's the pinnacle of the technology.
Yeah.
Well, Nokia's attempt, the communicators where they had the phone on the back, it looks absolutely stupid now, but back then it was like, wow, that's a great idea.
Yeah, Nokia Communicator 9000 series, which is basically a phone with a keyboard attached to it. They're actually still quite nice. We've got a couple of them knocking around, and you open it up and you look at the industrial design on it. It's like, they were on the right ideas with this. Generation or two later, but you can see once this Fondle slab came out. Where are you? Once this thing came out, we were starting to hit it's a rectangular, unappealing slab that just there's no interaction to it, is there? There's no buttons, there's no twisty bits, and this is now pervading everything. You go to new cars, and your new car is just a black rectangle of interaction without your knobs and switches. But this became the metaphor for ongoing design. Everything else lost. We lost our keyboards, we lost our knobs, we lost our switches. Whether for good or for ill, you can put a knob on a screen with this, and you can then decide next week that you're going to add a slider. You can change this into whatever you want it to be. It's not as good as those separate devices, but you can change it to represent those things on a whim. Unfortunately, once you put a knob and a slider into a place, it is fixed. You have to put that upfront investment into it and the cost to do so. In some cases, you don't get a choice about it. If you're in a car and you are driving along and you want to change the volume, stabbing at a screen is a really bad idea, whereas the little knob down by your left-hand side that you twizzle is absolutely fine. Battleships seem to be the latest. Well, not the latest one. It was a few years ago where that incident occurred, where they went, "Oh, well, we put touchscreens in everything," and then they went, "Oh, look, they rammed into each other." It's a stupid bit of design change. Bring it back to few more knobs, please. There's a balancing act between black tablets of death, new name time, please, and more knobs and more buttons.
No, I agree. I've seen I think it was for an iPhone a couple of years ago, it plugs into the lightning port or USB-C now on the bottom, and it just brought out a whole QWERTY keyboard, very similar to the BlackBerry keyboard, which is
that makes sense.
Lovely keyboard to type on when you've got a little tiny phone. And your iPhone, you could then type away and send messages and, I don't know, open terminals if you're that way inclined, like me.
Yeah.
Nice adaptation. Nice way of bringing back that physicality to a black soulless death cube. Let's bring back that tactileness.
And now we take it all the way back to Tommy's question before about the Tungsten T5. The Palm Pre, which was out just as Android was starting to take off. You remember the Palm Pre?
The Pre is one I don't remember.
No.
He's now going to Google it to find out what the Palm Pre looks like. If you
Amazingly, I don't have every device.
Take a Palm, a little pocket PDA, and a phone, merge them together.
Yes, that again. Was this peak where you have two beautiful things coming together, and this was where it was heading towards? I mean, it wasn't, because Palm went out of business, but it's a nice. I can't remember if the keyboard was actually terrible on that thing or not. If it wasn't actually as good as a BlackBerry keyboard,
it wasn't.
But the idea is
BlackBerry.
No, that's what I mean. Whether it was as good as a BlackBerry keyboard, it was.
It wasn't on par to it.
It wasn't. No.
But it was better than something like Nokia's internet tablet keyboards on the 810, which is just awful. And this is where I show a lot of knowledge about handheld computers now. A lot of these have just gone to a friend of mine as a gift. Like, here you go, have all these. I'm clearing out my office. There you go.
And did this come out around the time of the iPhone as well? Was this about the time that they came out with the WebOS? This came out at the same time as the tablet, as Palm OS came out with the tablet as well.
Yeah.
And this was the last attempts for them to make a go, and didn't happen, because this was the new operating system as well, wasn't it? Yeah, the Linux-based WebOS.
The iPhone came out, everybody else lost.
Yeah, WebOS was quite nice. The operating system was pretty good. The tablet form was surprisingly good. But we were transitioning to a world that wasn't ready for it.
No, and that's sort of been the theme for handhelds since they came out. Really, they were either ahead of their time, or they had a poor interface, or there were so many compromises. Yeah, I love that. It's like the Z88.
It's the Z88.
That is a beast.
It's an absolute beast, but it's surprisingly good.
It's brilliant for writing. Also, the Radio Shack TRS, or the Model 101. Yeah. I remember what sequence it goes in for. But that was what the old journalists used to use to phone in their copy from payphones. They had an acoustic coupler.
Yep.
Yeah, lovely piece of kit. But as I said, with handhelds like this, we all have compromises. We can't run Windows, we can't run Linux on this. We have to run a custom OS, which works absolutely perfect on this. It's graphical. We can do what we want. If I want to do something with Serial, I have to buy a £20 add-on, or that's what it was on eBay when I bought it last time. That plugs into the side and it connects into RS-232, but we don't have that in our computers anymore, so you have to buy a USB adapter. And then the software doesn't run on modern Windows, so I have to run a VM, and then Kian had to show me how to get the VM to talk to that after a show a couple of years ago.
Yep.
There's always compromise with handhelds, but with using something like a Raspberry Pi, we can sort of minimize the compromise now, because we've got a pretty much a full Linux OS. And yes, you're going to be running it on a Pi 3A Plus, which isn't the speediest of Pis, but for what you want to do with it, I'm guessing it's going to be absolutely perfect.
Just like the Zero, I wish the 3A Plus had more memory.
Yeah, 02W, 512 mega RAM. That's 1 gig should have been the target for that.
Yeah,
definitely. But who knows? One day we might see a Pi Zero 3W with 1 gig and a Pi 4 CPU. I never know. I don't know anything, by the way, viewers.
No.
I'm just guessing right now.
People are taking notes as the inside track right now.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the leaked info.
Well, I think we've rattled the discussion pretty well tonight about PDAs and how the good old days are better than today, being the old men that we are. I want to thank Mike and Kian for coming on the show and having a good old chat. It's been a different show to normal, just a good old chat. But to get us back into swing of things after me getting everything wrong with the video earlier on. But that's what happens. And to answer Martin's question, yes, Martin, we are early tonight because of the time zone changes. It's 2 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. UK. But next week, because the clocks go forward in the UK, it's 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. BST. It'll be, won't it, next week?
We're back on BST. Oh, okay.
Back on BST, yeah. On Sunday, we go from GMT to BST.
Righto.
Yeah, everyone remember that. We all get less sleep.
Change your clocks.
Sunday. Yeah.
Change your cooker clock and your microwave clock and your car clock. Don't forget your car clock.
Or just leave it and just remember for 6 months.
Oh, yeah. And every time you do it, you think to yourself, are we not at a time where everything is automatically updated yet?
Do we really want an internet-connected oven? Have you seen Jeff Geerling's level 2 second channel video about his IoT-connected dishwasher?
Oh, yes, I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
I've not seen it.
We don't want to do that. But we're going to be back next week at the normal time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. BST. We'll have some more guests. We'll have some more chats about technology. Anyway, that's all for this week. Thanks very much. Ta-da.
Bye.